Goodwin, Lisa Hewitt-Dick.
Here.
Mike Sardina.
Here.
Dick Wheelwright.
Here.
Great. Well, thank you all for your attendance. Grace may be able to attend. She's on vacation and would be dialing in remotely, since wishes she could be here. But anyway, she's not. Just before we jump into the agenda, we have we have a good bunch of stuff to talk about. We are expecting Brian Joyce to join us in a few minutes to talk about a number of things that are related to climate resilience in the harbor. And that'll be a great opportunity for us. And then following that, assuming Brian gets here, we have Adam Donovan to share with us what's going on in the fishing industry in Cohasset and what's going on with him and everything. So thank you for being here, Adam. We have a few other things to go through, but that's the plan for today. We will do our best to try and finish up by 8:30 and or 8:35. I do want to I made a update to the agenda at the last minute or 2 days ago to include priorities. We have priorities from 2025. I have some thoughts about proposed priorities for 2026. So want to make sure we get a chance to discuss those before we close the meeting. First order of business, and Jake, I'm going to run this at the moment, but from here on forward, you'll be running the acceptance of the minutes.
Sure.
All right.
Cool.
But so I produced, or Susan and I produced these, and I just wanted to, as an order of business, would like to entertain a motion to accept the minutes.
I'll move to accept the minutes.
Is there a second?
Second.
With that, is there discussion of the minutes? I agree that most people didn't get a whole lot of time to review them, but they tried to capture. Susan, thank you for producing those.
Dick, did I send them to you at the end of the last one?
I'm not sure if I got them when they were published from George. I didn't see them direct from you. I'm not sure.
Okay.
In any case, we have them. And these minutes, once accepted, will be posted on the town website. Is there any further discussion about the minutes? All in favor of accepting the minutes as written, signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, minutes are accepted unanimously. Next on the docket, we have Harbor Master report. Jump right into it. Lori, what's going on?
Not much. I'm trying to work on getting the conveyor for this year. I'm just trying to figure out the extra funding that's going to be needed. I went up to Marblehead last week and saw their conveyor belt and talked to a couple of the fishermen up there about it. So I got a better idea of what a conveyor belt really looks like.
Mm-hmm.
The landing? Near the landing restaurant?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. We have to make some adjustments to the end of the pier and everything. Some structural adjustments, but I should be able to get it taken care of if I can find the available money.
Mm-hmm. What insights were new to you or not from the fishermen using the conveyor in Marblehead?
Oh, they like it.
Mm-hmm. Is it a similar situation to what we're proposing to put in?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. Be very similar. It's a conveyor belt.
Mm-hmm.
It's a wheel.
Yeah, and so we just have to figure out, how much of it's going to be on the dock and how much has to be up at the top. And I've been spending a lot of time emailing the manufacturer back and forth about it.
Does he owe us or owe you a revised proposal on build?
Once we get to the point that we're ready to go, yes, because his proposal will only be good for 30 days.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm waiting. until I've got everything pulled together and we figure out how we're gonna do this.
Is there a conveyor, when you looked at it last week, still in place here in January do they keep it in year round?
Well, their setup is different.
Mm-hmm.
They have a lift system that with a motorized pulley that pulls it up every night.
That pulls the whole conveyor up.
It just pulls the whole, yeah,
Oh.
the portion that's on land is still attached at land. But the end on the dock rolls. It it's on rollers.
Mhm.
So at the end of the day, whoever's the last person has to hook up the lift to like a ganchion.
So it's lifted up and then put totally on.
No, just
Just-
lift it up.
just lift it up.
So there's like a,
Just
like a ladder?
the-
And the end
just-
of it.
Just the dock end.
Hmm.
Just
So
the
that
dock end.
people can't mess around.
And is that a 12-month solution? They don't have to take it on or off if they do it that way?
Right.
Because it basically gets it out of storms, at least the water part of the storm surge way, right?
And just the day-to-day moving of the docks. Our docks are pinned at both ends of the gangways. Theirs roll at the dock end. It's pinned up on land, but it rolls at the bottom, sort of like our Parker Avenue dock.
Yeah,
So there's a lot more movement.
which would degrade it more
So
quickly,
they-
right?
They use a hoist and lift it every night, the last person.
And then can the hoist be double purpose? Like, can that be used to grab a thing
No,
and swing it?
no.
It's only for that.
It's only for that,
Oh.
because of the location of it.
And we would or wouldn't do that.
No.
Yeah, that would be a you get a lot of,
It's
you get a
gonna
lot
be
of phone calls.
Yeah. It's gonna be a challenge.
Nobody hoisted it.
It's sticking out there.
So when on the date when this all comes together, the electrical has to be moved over there, or is that already in place on the
The funds?
no, the electrical box that?
Oh, no, we don't have any electrical
So that,
for it yet.
yeah, so that has
We
to
have
be
to-
installed, right?
Oh, yeah, we have to do everything. Nothing's installed.
Mm-hmm.
So if people are working on their lobster boats down there, do they have to get electricity from you up at the house?
And government, when we do it,
Well, anybody working on the boat down there, there's no electricity on?
no, there's electricity at the end of the pier.
Oh,
But
But
not,
not sufficient to run this
Yeah, right,
conveyor,
right.
right? Or-
right.
Yeah,
Not con-
we're gonna have to.
Yeah.
Upgrade.
Run a whole new line,
Mhm,
at least from the top of the pole down.
mhm. Adam, what questions do you have?
Yeah, we've talked to the guys in Marblehead and we've got videos. Some guys have been up there and checked it out too. You know, it's something, you know, it's not a one size fits all. Obviously, like Lori said, it has to be modified to fit Government Island and the uniqueness of that spot. But it is a good example and it's a good starting point.
Hmm.
So,
that's great.
and yeah, so we've heard, you know, they talked to some guys that have sent us videos and stuff and, you know, it seems to suit their needs. So
Mhm.
that's what we'd be looking for.
And they're using it primarily for the lobster business only?
As far as I know, yeah, I mean, I think there's somewhat of a scallop fishery there. I don't know if there's any sort of ground fishery there.
There's an upweller there too, isn't there?
A what?
An upweller? I thought I remember taking a picture of it. If it wasn't an actual upweller, it was like a panel a sign that described that. Right there.
I'm not familiar with that.
Yeah. I mean, so what are the, you have, based on the visits, you have to adjust specs, or are the specs pretty much, the specifications for the conveyor pretty set?
Well, I have to talk to the manufacturer. Because, you know, to find out from their point of view, how much of it has to be on the dock and how much of it has to be on land.
Are they gonna come down and look at our situation and
They
confirm
did
their
they
spec?
did a few years ago.
Oh, they
yes.
did.
And then does it go, nobody really needs to know, but does it go up high so that you can unload right into the back of a truck?
It will go up high.
Oh, yeah, that's cool. That would be,
I don't know how high it's gonna be,
yeah.
but you can load right into a truck.
And with that angle of height, that'll change by the tide, because it's a. How am I doing? How am I doing? So that whatever the height is, yeah, you could
like with the
use
floating
shots
docks.
on your truck to lower the truck bed, depending on the tide level.
And one of the things we have to look into is, that I have to talk with the manufacturer with is when we get high course tides, the docks are higher than the top of the pier.
When you get high course tide, high king tides,
Yeah, or a storm.
yeah. King tides are right at the top of,
The Gangway and the pier is here.
okay. I didn't realize that was the case at Government Island.
Right? That's not
So.
when anybody's needing it. It's
No,
not
no,
just-
but I've gotta make
Okay.
sure we take that into
Yeah,
consideration
that it
when
doesn't,
we're
yeah.
trying to figure.
More and more
this thing out.
storms, right? So, forgive me for asking a silly question, but is this progress? I know we've been,
Oh, yeah,
I mean, I think so. I mean, from what I can
no, it's.
tell, but I
a
just
lot
didn't
of
know if I
progress.
had kind of taken my eye off the project. So, but it seems like it's a big progress.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yep. You were doing all that research.
And is Michelle Leary with her new very large expanse of duties? Is she your primary support in town hall for making this stuff happen?
Oh, yeah, no, we've talked about it.
Yeah. Yeah, good. Well, she's been close to it for years, right?
Mhm.
No, we've talked about it.
Okay. What else is new with the harbor? Maybe we'll hear from Adam, but is lobster fishing done at this point? But courtesy of federal regulations, or it's still going?
Close.
1, 2, 3, 4. 5 that are still fishing, 4 will fish all winter. Yeah, 4,
Yeah.
right?
Uh,
Joe, Mike,
is there a
Corey,
fourth? Oh, it's Corey? Okay,
and
yeah,
Ricky,
yeah.
Yeah.
So their testings.
the buoyless system.
Buoyless
Oh, cool.
systems.
Wow, that's a,
Is that new for this year?
They've been at it for a handful of years. Yeah. And it's designed so they can fish during the closure. And it's basically, buoys that are released and float up to the surface when they're sitting on top of them. It eliminates vertical lines in the water column. So it's safer for the right whales to be in the bay.
Interesting.
Yeah. It's
Wow.
controversial. It's good, depends on how you look at it, but
Probably pretty expensive.
very expensive. It's still, a testing phase, but I don't know what the units cost, but the $4,000, they're all over the place. They're very expensive.
Did the fishermen get any support for that?
Yes, yeah,
Government
they're all,
to-
the
to move to
government,
that,
the
yeah.
government's been basically subsidizing it and paying for these things. And have been testing it. Class, it's kind of like center of testing, really. There's not a lot of other people that are doing it.
Cool.
So, yeah.
Quick question. Is there a name for those type of traps or those buoys, Adam?
They're just called like buoyless gear,
Okay.
traps.
the ropeless or?
Yeah, ropeless gear. Yeah, sorry.
I like
ropeless
that. Yeah,
gear traps,
ropeless
yeah.
gear sounds good.
Yeah. Sorry, I don't really participate in it. Mike actually has all the knowledge on that stuff. He's really up to date on it.
Okay. Just had my own curiosity anyway, so thank you.
How do they work?
So you have a transducer on the boat, and when you get within range of your target, you ping it, and there's an actuator that kind of releases, and the buoy floats to the top. So it's like it looks like a traditional lobster trap full of rope and like a buoy in there. And then there's like this like auger thing that kind of like spins and releases the top, and then everything comes up.
So like
For,
50
for
or
that
60 feet.
string.
For that string,
For
yeah.
that string,
Yeah. Yeah.
There's like 50 or 60 feet of line in there or more? or-
Yeah, 200, it could be a lot, because these guys are out, they're up pretty deep right
Mhm.
now using this stuff. So yeah, there's a decent amount of line in it.
They easy to
Um,
reset?
I'm sorry?
Are they easy to reset?
They're getting easier. I've been out once with this stuff, so I don't have all the information on it. There's a couple of types with like they had tanks that like were filled with gas. Those ones had like, a certain amount of deployments and then you had to redo them. There's other ones that were lasting a little while longer. I'm sure they're even better now. It's the technology is going along, but I'm far from an expert on this stuff,
Mm.
Are they gonna be required everywhere or like there's so many lobster traps in close here?
Oh yeah, yeah. So
20
the
feet of water,
again,
would you have to do it in 20 feet of
huge
water?
challenge,
It's
and
gonna come in.
the practicality of it is just not there. And you'd have to know where the other guy's gear is without
Mm.
seeing their buoy, right? So
Wow.
it's only used right now during the closure,
During the
and there's
closure,
only
right.
like there's a handful of permits that these guys have to test this stuff.
And they tend to be deeper in the
They're
winter,
it's the
right? They
deeper,
go
it's in the
deeper
deeper
winter.
water,
Yeah.
and you can, once you get into an area, like you can't sit at home and look and see where everyone is, but like once you get into an area, you can start to see where people's gear pops up,
Oh,
and you could be like, all right, well, he's over here, I'm gonna run this way. But the practicality of it when the fleet is fishing like in June inside is just it's not there.
Yeah.
I mean, we're so close to each
Right.
other.
But that's not when they're concerned about the.
No, they're concerned.
contaminant,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Yeah.
But it's the thought is it's also kind of a slippery slope to go down because anytime something's introduced, it usually ends up as a regulation sooner or later. So which would be kind of scary, but we're far away from that, and
But it
Why,
is,
why don't we just take a pause? We're sort of heading into Adam's discussion. And Lori, just are there other items to bring up from a harbor master point of view? Okay. Well, thank you for the harbor master report, and we'll look forward to hearing more about the conveyor in the March meeting. Thank you. Seeing Brian's not here.
He's actually on remotely.
Oh, he's on remotely. Love that. Then what we'll take it in order. So ask you
Fair
to
enough.
pause on that, Adam, and we'll invite Brian to join us.
Good evening, everyone.
Hey, Brian.
How you doing?
Good. Thank you for joining us. Welcome.
Thanks for the invite.
do you want us to tell you who we have here in the house so that you know who you're talking to?
Sure, we can just go around the room.
Sure, hi, Lisa Hewitt Deck.
Adam,
Member?
Adam Donovan.
Jeff Donze.
Susan Bryant from CSCR.
Lori Gibbons,
Derek Goodwin?
Mike Sardina.
And George Baumgarten.
And Julia Gillis.
Hey, Julia.
And we do have a handful of people who are looking at this meeting online as well. But we appreciate you being here. And so Brian, really glad to have you here because we're focused on a lot of things that you're an expert in. I asked Brian to be here really the topic is around climate resilience at the harbor. And I have a few questions, Brian, but it's from the email that I sent you earlier. So the topics that I posed, and we'll let you talk about it. What I'm going to pose, I'll tell you what the questions were. I'd like you to just talk extemporaneously and sort of walk through, and then I think we'll pause and do questions after you've had a chance to speak to stuff, and we'll come back rather than interrupt the main talk. So the questions I had for Brian were to share with us, because of our interest in extreme rainfall events, his perspective on the James Brook watershed flooding that happened this past summer, that I know you were very focused on with Select Board. Secondly, next question is around the wastewater treatment plan resilience steps. Reason for that is we're focused on climate resilience and look at the wastewater treatment plant as an area of risk. And we're interested in your perspective of just how much risk it's at. Third question is around the flooding risks on Elm Street at the Public Safety Building. And, with all the focus on public safety building, just your perspective on how that building might be an island in an extreme flood and anything the town is doing to enable safety activities away from that building. The last discussion, which we're also interested in, is a follow-up to the study, the CZM study conducted, where we were looking at possible solutions to make the village and wastewater treatment plant and Jacobs Meadow more resilient from extreme storms by possible solutions at the Veterans Memorial and Border Street, possible solutions at Black Horse Lane. So that's a lot to cover.
Sure. Yeah, no, that's, so I'll take them in order of what you, they're all interrelated. But the first one, the extreme rainfall events in James Brook, and this ties right into what Julia's going to talk about with the grant submission that we're going to put in the next month or so, where rain meets tide. But it's, we went through the first CZM study with stormwater pathways, and Woods Hole came in and did some modeling on storm surges and where they would infiltrate, over the roadways into Jacobs Meadow, and also, over the roadway by Black Horse Lane and Summer Street, and basically came up with, potential mitigation steps on stopping that storm surge from coming in. And the main thing was elevating either the seawalls or the roadways in those areas to meet a certain elevation to stop the storm flow. And so that report had some great visuals, and it was well received. But they went through, the modeling was basically from, I think it was a 2030, 2050, 2075 sea level rise projections, and they used a higher sea level rise projection, and then modeled kind of the flooding of what it would look like in those areas at those points in time if the sea level rise follows the trend that is, again, the higher range of the trend. And now we're into like the next step of applying for these grants. And just as it ties to the rain versus the storm surge, what we're seeing now as far as flooding issues isn't really from our storm surges or sea level rise yet, but we're experiencing, heavy rainfalls. And then if you have a storm surge that holds back any gravity flow to the harbor, the rain keeps coming down the watershed, and we experience flooding in those low areas on Elm Street and Jacobs Meadow and that area. So the next phase we're looking at, and Julia will get into a little deeper, but we're looking at mitigation steps upstream on Jacobs Meadow. On James Brook watershed. And just to explain the watershed of James Brook, it's basically, everything from Route 3A, if you think of the healthcare Crocker Lane area that flows down into Sanctuary Pond. There's a lot of Forest Ave before you get to the first hillside comes down. All that flow comes down into Sanctuary Pond, which has a dam, and then the headwaters of James Brook starts there, and it meanders down, kind of following North Main Street, with a few turns, and ultimately ends up in James Brook. And what we're seeing is that the flow of this, the land area of James Brook watershed is roughly, 12 to 15% of the entire land area of Cohasset. So it's the biggest, I think the biggest watershed we have in the area that comes into the harbor. So if you imagine a 1, 2, 3 inch rainfall, that's a lot of water that comes down into James Brook. And if you have a storm surge holding back the water, not allowing it to flow to the ocean, that's when you have the water levels rise. So what we're looking at is there any kind of mitigation or where we can do upstream on James Brook? There's a place where it does this serpentine thing, like the Wiggle. Can we do a detention area that would slow down the flow of rainfall, and precipitation down in the watershed, to slow it down enough to allow for some time so that when the tide goes out, it would, mitigate some of that water level that's flooding in Jacobs Meadow. And so that grant Julie, we're looking at mitigation steps there, and that ties into another grant that we're applying to in the same time frame for the wastewater treatment plant upgrades. So the biggest impact of flooding, and let me see if I could share my screen. I'll just bring up the GIS map. Might be helpful. So are you all seeing the GIS map?
Looks good.
Yeah, so ski bearings, here's the Cohasset Harbor right here. This is Jacobs Meadow. James Brooks comes down this way. We also have the watershed that comes down from Elms Meadow in this area. And this is the current. So you can see this is, the water, this is where the water surface is in the harbor. And if we superimpose this is the current FEMA flood maps. So this is not sea level rise. This is basically our current FEMA flood maps.
Yeah.
The blue area is, the 1% annual chance flood hazard. So they're changing the names for a good reason. They used to call that the 100-year storm, and then the 0.2%. This 2.2% was the 500-year storm. That doesn't mean that it happens once every 100 years. It actually means that there's a 1% chance in any single year that this may happen, probability-wise. So you can see the plant is right here in the middle of the meadow. And the main upgrades that we're looking to do at the treatment plant, and we've already got a design fully in place for the electrical upgrades to elevate any of the critical systems in the treatment plant above the floodplain. Should we get sea level rise and flooding, I think we're going for the 2050 sea level rise flooding. So that is in place. We've already put in for the grant last year when it went through, and we didn't get it. We've gotten some feedback from CZM and others on, explaining the narrative and how it protects really the single biggest impact to flooding in this area. And I'm not minimizing what happens to people's homes, which could be devastating. It's, if we lost treatment at the sewer plant, then we just have raw sewage going into the harbor, which would be devastating. So we, basically that we're trying to emphasize the importance and the environmental impact of making the sewer plant resilient and protecting the harbor. So the basis of that, it's a $1.7 million price tag, but it's basically bringing a new transformer into the area, elevating all the electrical equipment in the plant, and protecting it so that if we did get flooding, we'd still be able to process and treat the water before it's discharged. So that's the treatment plant resilience that we're going for.
Can I'm
Yeah,
gonna
go ahead.
break my rule. Are the holding tanks of the water treatment plant sufficiently high that they wouldn't be inundated by flooding?
They are, yeah. If you haven't been in there, so if you walk at grade level and you go into the, there's probably a 6 or 8 inch step going into the treatment plant. The tank elevation, the top of the tank elevation is roughly like 4.5 feet above that grade levels, and that's high enough that they wouldn't get inundated. But we have electrical boxes that are lower than that. We have pumps, compressors, things of that nature that need to be upgraded and elevated to make it more resilient. The standby generator on site is actually high enough so that it's above the floodplain, but some of the feeds and the switch gear and the transformer that goes in there is too low, so those would need to be upgraded and elevated as well.
Thank you.
Sure. So I guess we'll go into the public safety, unless anybody else had any questions on the.
Yeah, let's go to that while you're rolling on it, and then we'll ask questions at the end.
Yeah. So again, we're looking at the flood map here. This is the chance of flooding with the FEMA flood map. So the police fire station is right here. You can see it does not, well, the model shows it doesn't flood the street directly in front of the station, but obviously going towards the harbor, this avenue for travel is shut off. And then if you go northbound, there is a chance of flooding near the train crossings. I'll keep going up James Brook. You can see Sawyer Street. Again, it doesn't go over the roadways, but I have seen flooding, like say on Smith Place and some other areas and very high flows. So if I zoom out, it would, they would really only have one, I guess, means of travel out of town. It would probably be going North Main Street out in a really bad flood. They cut off the coastal route this way and would have to circumnavigate around. Obviously, we still have flooding on Jerusalem Road here. They could use Bow Street, but you can see in this model, if we had a Hurricane Sandy or anything, these coastal roads are kind of cut off. So I don't want to speak for the police and fire station and their means of response, but
yeah,
it'd be clear that they'd have to navigate around some of these floodwaters to get it in and out of the existing spot. So, and then I guess the last question you had was the follow-up to the CZM study. So we kind of touched on that in the earlier ones. The first CZM study was, how do we stop this storm flows in here? And it was kind of elevating the roads, as you said, around, or the road end, seawalls around the Veterans Memorial here to match this elevation. You can see the dry land here. That's high enough above that. And then again, down here, they had some concepts on Black Horse Lane and Summer Street, again, kind of elevating the roadway along this edge. Some difficulties with all of these ideas, and as far as, they would need to be engineered, and we'd need to really, funding would probably be the biggest issue. And down on this area, there's some private property to contend with, having to negotiate or figure out where we could put these measures to elevate it to stop the storm flow from coming in from the Gulf this way. So the next phase, we're looking at not really going after the storm flow, as it's not our current biggest risk. It's really the freshwater storm flow coming down the watershed that we're seeing as an impact of flooding the area and some of the residents and getting close, inundating, not inundating the sewer treatment plant, but there's a lot of I&I. We've recently just done cleaned and lined all of the sewer trunk lines. There are 3 main sewer trunk lines that come into the plant. So underneath the meadow, it's all new stuff and new manholes. But there is still some I&I when we have rainfall from upstream, and we're continuing to chase that upstream to hopefully stop that unnecessary flow that we don't need to treat.
So what is I&I again stands for?
So it's inflow and infiltration. So if you have, just give you an order of magnitude, our plant is permitted for 450,000 gallons a day, and you only use 80% of that permit wise. If you go over that, you need steps on how you're going to increase capacity or limit capacity. But when we have a major rainfall event, the flow coming into the plant exceeds 1 million gallons a day. So it's more than double the capacity of the plant. It's not that the plant at times can't keep up with that 1 million gallon per day flow and treat 1 million gallons a day flow if the membranes are working correctly. But it's well over our permit. It just shows the magnitude of I&I, which is inflow and infiltration, coming from either leaking joints or, connections. People have some pumps to their sewer pipes or gutters, that go into the sewer. And, that really, and just give you an idea, our plant's 450,000 gallons a day. 1 million gallons a day, just trying to quantify the flow, is 700 gallons a minute, roughly. So if you saw a hydrant flowing at full bore, that's about 1,200 gallons a minute. So 700 gallons a minute. If you had a few major I&I locations, it really increases the flow per day.
And it sounds like that's something that you and your staff are trying to make headway on within the normal town budget and your working hours for your team. Is that accurate?
Yeah. So obviously started the flooding areas. So we just lined all of the low-lying and flooding areas in here and on the sewers around there. But there's I&I coming from upstream, so we're going to continue to go upstream, and that work was done with grant money. So it's really not something we can tackle capital wise in the operating budget. It's we're chasing grant funding, and the sewer commission will be they're planning capital upgrades over the next few years, and there'll be articles at this town meeting to that effect too.
Terrific. Well, why don't I open it up to questions from the committee? Who has questions?
Pretty thorough. That's
I was
great.
gonna say.
Thank you.
I would throw out a couple. So the James Meadow mitigation, you talked about trying to create a, holding action, maybe up at the sanctuary pond areas. Is that something you've identified and that could, again, covered by somehow in the Cohasset budget, or have you identified it and it's something that would require a grant to address?
So we're again, Julie was talking about, we're looking to get a study on a concept study on what we could do in this upstream area, and we really weren't looking at. It was downstairs Sanctuary Pond. There's a dam structure here. I think there's a place called the Wiggle. I think it's down in this area here, before you get to Sawyer Street, where it flattens out and it does a little bit of a serpentine thing. Maybe do some sort of detention area where it holds back water before releasing it. It only releases it at a certain time. So some storage in this area here, and just so you know, the town owns. And this is all cross country, pretty much nobody sees, but there's a large area here. So this is town owned, and the town owns a lot of the parcels out here.
So just to recap, what I understand is we need the grant to really, peel the onion back a little bit to identify exactly how that detention would happen. And then we need capital to implement that.
That's correct. And hopefully that capital comes in the form of grant money as well.
Okay. Okay. Um,
So how much of James Brook is actually in culverts?
In culverts, well, it's all open channel until you cross, the train tracks. Here's the railroad track. Here's North Main Street. So anytime you have a crossing of, a roadway or train, that's the only time it's really culverted. And then, the biggest culvert is obviously down through the center of town. It goes at Smith Place here. That's the last time it sees daylight until it comes all the way out to Jacobs Meadow, past Brook Street and the old Masonic Lodge there.
so Brian, another question. We're looking at this, the town of Cohasset spatial data viewer. In the studies by CZM, there, what we're seeing in the 20, 30, 50, and 70 scenarios is they're using the CZM model, which is a forward-looking model, right?
That's correct. Yeah,
And so how are you sort of reconciling this very detailed FEMA flood map with the forward-looking CZM data models?
So our grant, like for instance, our wastewater treatment plant upgrades, that's not just taking into account the flooding that we see here on the map and the elevation of the current FEMA flood maps, but we're going for a future elevating the equipment above a 2050, 2075 sea level rise flooding event.
Okay.
We don't have them mapped on our current GIS mapper, and this is our internal GIS viewer that has water, all of the town structured data on it.
I know that Nasser Brahim, who ran the study, said that I don't know if that the town and possibly you has the ability to model inundation into the town using the CZM future-looking data models. Is that true, and is that of value to you?
So we don't have the capacity in-house to do that modeling, but we have the deliverables from their study. If somebody wanted to take that in the future, we want to hire a consultant. So Woods Hole Group, I think, and Julie can probably correct me, I think we're Woods Hole Group is going to be following up doing this upstream study for mitigation on James Brook. So it's not Nasser. I think he's moved to a different position. But,
yes, Connor.
Yeah, the same group will be helping us with that effort.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah.
Susan, did you have a question?
I had two things. Did you guys look at what Mike was talking about of blocking off the Gulf River flow in the Black Horse Lane area?
So not in the current grant cycle. We weren't chasing any of the sea level, raising roadways or seawalls in this current grant cycle. But it is, we have that study, and that's, when we went through their study, obviously it was eye-opening and it's good information, but then we kind of looked at what are our risks right now, and we are seeing risks basically from stormwater flow, not sea level surge. So much. So we want to mitigate that risk, and then future grant cycles go for seawalls and elevating roadways and such.
Well, it makes sense to do the combined modeling, right? So it makes a lot of sense to do that as the next step.
Yeah. Which I think that is the next grant.
Talked about, right?
I think what I'm hearing from Brian is if he has to choose which project to sink a shovel into, it's the upstream stormwater,
which is already causing problems,
right?
Yeah, because it's, I guess, a clear and present danger.
But the combined modeling of the two gives you that much more information to go on.
Yeah.
The maps that you get from the online sources, do you find, like, in your own personal experience, are they pretty accurate, or do you find that there's some puddles that form flooding that's not really on there.
No, so, and I haven't been in town, all that long, but I went through these flood maps. There was a no-name storm, back in, I think it was, the 90s or early 2000s. And, I kind of went through this map with Bob Egan, the flood maps reside in the building office, for anybody who wants to do any kind of development and it showed that, and talking with Bob, he walked a lot of the sites that were flooded here, and he saw that the level of the flooding in that storm and, the blizzard of 78 storm, it was pretty close to where it showed on these maps.
Good.
So, and the blizzard of 78 is still kind of the, our storm du jour. It's kind of what we're modeled after right now.
Well, the FEMA maps are largely for the insurance purposes, right?
Right.
Yeah.
That's correct. Yeah.
Yeah.
But it seems pretty accurate on
Mhm.
where we'd be in kind of a major storm or nor'easter.
Brian, based on your sort of responsibilities as head of DPW and wastewater treatment plant, do you feel like you're getting, good support where you see that there's critical, urgent things to be done? Or do you think there's more support that you could have?
Yeah, I mean, we met with, the RFR, I think, is coming out next week, and Julie could probably talk a little bit better about that, for the grants. And we met, there's a time where you can talk with the grant, the people who review the grants. We met with them a couple of weeks ago, and they gave us good information on this is what we're looking for. This is what your prior one went, why it didn't score as high. And so I think as far as flood mitigation, we're going to chase grant monies, but the wastewater treatment plan has just, there's going to be a lot of capital items coming up there in the next, 1 to 5 to 7 years, as far as doing more sewer work upstream. We have a grant that an asset management grant. We've already done an asset management grant where we looked at every single piece of equipment in the treatment plant, and they gave a risk of failure, consequence of failure, and kind of a price tag on it. And the entirety of it's a big price tag, but it's been prioritized in sections that they're going to try to tackle over the next 5 to 10 years. And the next phase of the asset management grant is, we've done the treatment plan, is going through the sewer collection system and going upstream. And that's underway now. And I think we're going to have a deliverable on that early summer. And again, they'll find things that need to be fixed. So there'll be, the sewer commission's focused on capital improvement plans going forward. And that's, they have a plan, but it's, there's a lot of work to do in kind of keeping the plant running and upgraded.
Okay.
So roundabout way, I guess we have enough support, but all support comes down to the bottom line and where's the money coming from.
Yep. Good.
And is there anything else that we can do to help you?
So once we start, I guess this, this next phase grant, if we get it for the upstream watershed, I think, we'll probably talk to you guys again, and if there's letters of support or anything that would help, we'll definitely reach out.
Ryan, did you get any sense that, in talking to CZM people, that some of this funding and this grant funding is going to be a lot lower this year or next year? I mean, is there a concern that if the grant or the study, the work isn't done now, that, because of some of the federal implications of the funding, some of the money might not be there in the next couple of years?
So we've talked about that internally, and it's been around that there'll be less funding. I haven't gotten that from CZM or any of the other folks that there's a lesser pool of money this year. But again, Julia, I think, has had a lot more conversations with them. Maybe she can talk to that.
Thank you.
Well, Brian, this has been great. Really appreciate you joining us. And
Nice.
where we have confluence and overlap in the future, we would welcome your perspective in the future. But thanks again for joining.
Yeah, really
Yeah.
helpful.
Thanks for having me.
And terrific. You're welcome to stay here. You're welcome to go. We're going to move to our next topic. Adam Donovan is going to share with us a little bit of his perspective on the fishing industry.
Great.
Thanks. Thank you, Brian. Adam.
Thanks for having me. I would say, Mike and I were here last year. Not much has really changed. It was a very kind of good year, which nothing really bad happened, which is always good. No storms to contend with. We had some great weather. I'd like to thank Lori for continuing to work to get the conveyor belt, and that does remain our biggest challenge is infrastructure. I spoke to the fact that we're in a closure, so we have a season and we need to be productive. And so every day that we have to spend, trying to get gear home, working around the tides, are days that we can't be producing.
Shortened.
Cohasset's, a small harbor, but, we're mighty. 2024, we landed 234,000 pounds of lobster.
Wow.
We're in the top half of the rankings every year. We punch above our weight a lot of times, and having infrastructure to help us, will only kind of keep the fleet going, keep us relevant. A lot of harbors around us have infrastructure, and get a little jealous, and it's we'd like to see Cohasset stay relevant, the fishery stay strong and healthy. As far as like an advisory group, if you guys could just let the selectmen know we're still here and we still need this stuff and it's important, I'd really appreciate that. And any support that Lori needs to get this done would be extremely helpful.
Are there other things besides conveyor belt that I wasn't here for last year's meeting?
Right.
There are things that are really particularly helpful to.
Yeah. So I mean. Yeah.
Yeah.
How much time we got? No. So I know, right? So the municipal harbor plan that was developed, we spent a lot of time working on that, and it was a very thorough process. And I'm glad to see that we're in the implementation phase, and that these items are not being lost. There's not one thing that's more important than the other in that harbor plan. But the commercial fishing fleet needs to be taking an active role in implementation of those plans.
Yeah.
There was a kind of a grandiose design for Government Island. It did incorporate climate change and rising sea levels and everything. And I think another thing to take into consideration too, in the uniqueness of Cohasset Harbor, is that there's just no designated commercial, there's no designated recreational. It's everyone uses the same spots, right? So there might be some docks that are used more for commercial or more for recreational, but overall, everyone has access to these facilities. So if we do develop, if there's the ability to develop Government Island, it's not just going to support the fishermen, it's going to support the entire town and the access to the water, and access to the harbor. So that's, I'd like to see that remain a long-term goal in the sustainability of the harbor as well.
To see what remain a long-term goal?
The development of Government Island.
Okay.
To make
that
sure that it.
peer improvement
the
we talked about.
improvement of
Okay.
the facility there. The conveyor belt's a great first step. It gets us in the game. It's one step.
Let me ask, do you, in your daily working, I know Government Island Pier can be used by recreational boaters. Right. Do you see many recreational boaters in your day-to-day activity?
So I primarily fish off at like Town Landing over near the old Salt House.
Yeah.
There's maybe 5 of us that regularly use that facility, and then the rest of the fleet is over at Government Island. So I mean, yes, so I see, recreational boaters come and go, and, it's, everyone kind of does their thing, there's a certain rhythm to the harbor, and it all kind of works, so, obviously, there's always, ways of maybe trying to improve certain things,
Yeah.
but overall, the facility that access seems to be okay.
And you get your fuel, I see the fuel truck on what,
Yes.
Tuesday mornings at 8 or
Yes.
Wednesday
Yep.
mornings?
Yeah, Wednesday mornings, Sean Harris comes down and fills us up. So that's been very helpful.
And what about access to the distribution, the wholesalers that you? I mean, I know some.
yeah, so,
Over Situate.
Yeah, a lot of guys
Yeah.
use the Cohasset Lobster Pound right there.
Right. But what's gonna happen with the supposed hotel?
Well, let's hear how
It's not-
so
all
they're
I know
using,
is,
you
yeah.
say a lot of guys use it or everybody?
Yeah, I say a
uses
decent amount of fishermen sell to Cohasset Lobster Pound. I sell to another dealer who's based out of Hummerock and Sandwich, and they send a truck to Situate, so I could just drive to Situate and meet the truck. Occasionally, in years past, they have had a truck in Cohasset. They didn't last year. We're hoping to get it back next year. So it
When you
just
say you
depends.
drive to Situate, you drive your pickup truck to
Yes,
Situate.
throw the lobsters in the back of the truck, drive to Situate,
Mhm.
and sell them right there. So it's a little extra work, but it's a little bit better price. I guess.
Okay. I mean, to answer your question, the last we heard about the Lobster Pound is it's moving from its current location to a place at Cohasset Wharf. But
It was very
is-
limited though, wasn't it?
well,
Yeah.
they didn't
Yeah,
they
we-
didn't have a proprietor for it. That was they didn't have somebody who wants to run it. I guess the guy who's running it still is maybe looking for an exit. Do you know?
I have no comment on that. I don't
Right.
have any comments.
That's fine. But that was at least what we heard from Susan Hoadley, is they were putting in a
Yeah, it's
Lobster
areas.
Pound
Mhm.
location.
I knew
Yeah.
some of the guys go to Situate and just know how
Yeah.
challenging that is
Yeah.
versus having something right in Cohasset.
Yes, it is. I mean, we don't want to lose, any sort of infrastructure, public or private. Having the Lobster Pound moved over to where Atlantica was, is concerning. We met with the owner there a couple of years ago, and we kind of went over some of our concerns with regard to volume, how much, that can be stored and produced in Cohasset on a given day and stuff. And, ultimately it's a, private property, and they're going to do what's best for them. Hopefully we remain somewhat in that discussion, but, the industry, can also sustain itself off of refrigerated vehicles. So we could have a reefer truck parked in the parking lot for a couple hours, pick up everyone's catch, and it's fine too,
Yeah.
But you do lose, I mean, Cohasset is unique in a lot of ways, and you lose a little bit of that
Yeah.
small harbor feel
Right.
and stuff when it just goes away.
Mhm.
So, try to keep it if we can.
Adam, when you were here a couple of years, it wasn't full year, which was a really great presentation.
Mhm.
I think you and Mike Lane were talking about what you do when you are not floating buoys for lobster fishing.
Right,
Which sounds like that's your situation now. You're about to head into a downtime.
right, yes, yeah.
And
So, I have.
I hope you're skiing and
Luckily
having
enough,
fun and
yes.
living off your profits.
Try to
Work on
ski.
the.
Yeah, there's a lot of maintenance that happens. There's a lot of maintenance. I'm
Sure.
kind of lucky that I have a second skill in carpentry. It's something I've always done. So, I'm pretty busy with that.
It's okay.
That's good to know.
Yeah. It's all good. But it is a challenge. These businesses are expensive to run. We need every day to the the right kind of proper infrastructure will really help that.
Mhm. Mhm. Has there been any notable changes, better for worse, from in the federal regulatory situation from your perspective?
Notable changes. No, I mean that we've had, we've had a lot happen in the past decade. There's been a lot of primarily around the North
Right
Atlantic
whale.
right whale
Yeah.
closure, and nobody wants to see a whale entangled. I mean, it's horrible, and we're doing a lot. The industry's working really hard. We've come up with a lot of good ideas that we now use when we are fishing that would help mitigate the risk to the whales. And these are ideas that fishermen have come up with, and that they've been adopted by the regulators. So, it is kind of a working relationship. But a lot of the stuff, it costs time and money to, adjust your gear to. And that remains a challenge. But we're now kind of facing more kind of focus on stock assessment and what regulations, or looking at regulations, if they should be or should not be adjusted, as far as like how many traps we fish, the gauge size, that kind of stuff. But that's kind of always floating around too.
Mhm.
We're just
Yeah.
keep plugging along.
Yeah.
And
That's
the
all.
amount of, the volume of landings, sort of, has there been any trend or over the last 5-10 years? I mean, has it just been kind of cyclical, goes up and down, or is it?
Yeah, I mean,
Going
just
up,
is
going
an
down.
average, this is an average. I mean, you definitely see, especially with like, if you get a good year, a good price year, that's definitely helps. I think, I'd say it's been fairly consistent, for the past, say, going on 10 years or so, something like that.
Have you, between you and Lori, you know this, but have you seen any new younger folks assisting their older fishing
We have,
friends
we
to,
have. I mean,
come into this?
Yes, yeah.
Fabulous.
We have a couple new people in the harbor. We've got some high schoolers that are starting out too. They have skiffs, and they're going for it. So it's really good to see.
Wow.
Yeah,
great.
Yeah.
That's the first time we've heard that, or I've heard.
Yeah,
that.
yeah, no,
That's
it's
wonderful.
We
great.
need that conveyor belt for some of those older guys,
It would help. It would help. Yeah, I know.
people I grew up with.
Yeah.
And Lori, are they getting the fishing moorings, these new entrants to the harbor? Do we have moorings for
They're,
new fishing industry people?
they're being able to use moorings.
Uh-huh. Good.
It's great.
Good to see.
Adam, do these new lineless floats that are being considered, do they actually increase the size and weight of the trap, the entire mechanism?
So
So when you guys are lugging traps down the gangways, these are going to be much heavier and more awkward because of the attachment that is how it works.
yes.
100
Simple.
feet of line in it, man, that's going to be a heavy thing.
Simple question. Your simple answer is yes, right? So right now, these things are designed and they're used so you have 20 traps on the bottom of the ocean, equally spaced out on one line. And then at the end of that, you're going to have something that resembles a trap, and that is where all the line is stored. And that's the device that, once triggered, sends it to the top.
Okay, I get it. Yeah.
So they're heavy. I've lifted a handful of them. I went out with Mike a couple of years ago, and they're pretty tough to move around. Some of them it took two of us.
But there's only one for every 20 theoretically.
Now, yes.
So the conveyor belt would definitely help with moving those things.
Yes, and I would say like that would be a very small percentage of the day-to-day,
Yeah.
getting the catch up the ramp.
Yeah.
And also like deploying gear and retrieving gear, bringing it home and setting it out is where we're really gonna see a benefit.
Yeah.
You know, and like, there are days like when you get to the end of the season, you're starting to pick and choose, okay, well, today looks nice, I'm gonna go fishing today, but I need to make sure that, you know, if I go fishing today and can I bring home traps, you know, it's this whole trade-off, and you don't want to like put a load of traps on your boat, get in at low tide, and then have to wait until the next day for high tide to take them off, and then it turns out to be a day you could go fishing. So it just, you know, having a little bit of consistency in an inconsistent business would be very helpful.
So it sounds like the conveyor can take the tide out of the equation in terms of getting those off the dock.
Yes, that would be, yeah, its biggest role. Is, you know, getting all the traps up the dock, because a trap can weigh, you know, 50 pounds, and you know,
wanna
our
do
boats,
that at low
our boats we can bring in 60, 80, 100 traps at a whack, you know, so that's a lot of stuff to move. And, you know, it takes a lot of time. So having help would really be good.
How is the water quality for the places that you're keeping the lobsters? Like, I know some people are concerned about pesticides and fertilizers
Right.
on the
Yeah.
Cox Estate go right into the lobster cars.
I mean, so our lobster car hasn't really been in use for a while. We need to rebuild it, but I've floated lobsters, and I really haven't had too much of an issue with that. It's always a concern, you know. But luckily, the water quality has been good enough that I haven't had any problems.
But CSCR provides data and measurements, right, throughout at least the summer months.
Yeah, but more up
Right.
the Gulf River than in the harbor.
I thought we had
We do bacteria in
sampling like over at the yacht club.
yeah, I'm not involved in that project.
Oh,
I'll talk to you.
I thought you were doing.
No, that's
okay.
not me, but it
Okay.
will be, because I'm gonna
Yeah.
try to do more of that for the
Cool.
eelgrass.
Nice, cool.
And then I know that we have, on the agenda, we have to talk about priorities, and one of them that's listed is the dredging. So is there any, thing that we should know from you about dredging and where those dredge spoils go, or anything that would affect fishing?
No, well, dredging, yes, important. We're starting to get a little shallow. There are areas in the harbor where boats do get hung up on their moorings. And as far as where it goes, I told this before, but like the guy I bought my boat from, you know, he fished in Cohasset for a very long time, and he said that every time that they took the dredge material and they put it back up towards the Adams Estate in that area, it would replenish those areas. It would bring back the clams and the eelgrass and stuff. So I think that as much of a challenge as it is now with federal regulations and where you need to dump this stuff, it is important to not overlook those areas, because it did come from those areas, and like to return it there would help replenish that environment as well. And he did. He said, you know, that it might take a while, but everything came back, you know.
So when you took dredged material from the harbor and put it out at the Adams Estate?
Yeah, in that area where
generally
where it came from, yeah.
All the place that we consider, we call it the AFChem now, the
Yeah.
area formerly known as Eelgrass Meadows.
Right.
And the flats, like when I was a kid, you could clam out there and you never ran into rocks. And I think it's because it was the dredge spoils were put there in the 50s, if do I have that right?
They did put them up there, yeah.
So it was all, there was no rocks there when I was a kid, as far as I remember.
There was a lot of eelgrass.
Yeah, there was a lot of eelgrass.
There's a lot of eelgrass up until 2022.
Yeah.
But in terms of getting in and out of the harbor, there's so far you're.
Yeah, I mean, on
running
a
up-
minus
running up-
tide, I wouldn't try it on a minus tide, you know, so, but generally, day to day, things are okay.
Okay.
And so they've never, so the last time they dredged, they piped it all onto Sandy Beach,
They
right?
tried to.
Right.
Some of it,
That
yeah.
worked.
So that doesn't bother you because that's other than.
Well,
the
I think that's a
piping.
horrible idea. It just ended up in Little Harbor. It flew across the road.
Yeah,
But no, I think it belongs where it came from. It needs to go back into that environment. To put it on the beach was kind of a dumb idea.
Yeah.
and then a third alternative would be, do they sink it out in the depths? Is that the other thing that they do?
They've dumped it off of Situate, they've dumped it off of Marshfield, but again, I'm getting away from the
Yeah,
lobster
yeah.
industry here, so.
No,
But
it's a, I mean, it's a good question about.
but as far as when dredging happens and then there's spoils, I want to make sure that we consider fishermen's concerns and ecological
Totally.
concerns.
Yeah.
Totally. Yep,
So that we don't,
agreed. Totally agree.
you know, add a whole lot of turbidity or bury the
Absolutely.
nursery grounds or whatever.
No, I think it would probably only help the nursery grounds.
So what other questions do we have for Adam? Jake, Lisa, Mike, Derek?
I want to thank you. I mean, every
Oh,
time you
thank
come,
you.
I learn something. It's been
Oh, that's
fantastic,
amazing.
seriously. And I know,
Sure.
no, seriously. And I know in the past, and I hope I'm not speaking out of turn, we talked about, you know, even though you're not a Cohasset member, you know, you live in Situate, but if you'd be more than welcome to come
Well, thank
Um,
you.
on a regular basis.
Yeah.
For my mind, as far as to add to this conversation.
I mean, I think, you know, having you here talking, Lori, about the conveyor, you about lobster, pulling it together. You know, I appreciate we have that focus, which is,
Mhm.
we are aware of the municipal harbor plan. And,
Painfully worked on it.
well, but no, I mean, there's
Chapter 91.
there's 1,000 years worth of projects in there, but
Right.
the ones we're trying to push for
Yeah.
that the town can afford are keeping the fishing fleet intact.
Right.
And it is to part of the reason for looking at priorities today is
Mhm.
we're sort of overdue for our visit to the select board to
Mhm.
tell them
I appreciate it.
what's up with
Right.
here. And I think that's a great thing to remind them that Cohasset's character, as well as the industry, is dependent on lobstermen like you.
Can I ask one other question?
Yeah, go ahead, Susan.
Good with the breakwater as it is, or do you feel like it needs to be raised? You'll
Um,
have your boats in a lot longer than.
right,
everyone else.
yeah. I mean, yeah, it's not something that's top of mind, but you know, I would say that, you know, the Gulf of Maine is the fastest warming body of water on Earth. It's, you know, it's very susceptible to sea level changes that we need to keep that in mind as we go forward
Mhm.
for the entire town, for the entire harbor.
Absolutely.
Yeah, not
It
just
breaks
us.
the
Exactly.
energy of the way.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
It
even when
seems-
it's, oh yeah,
it's
even when
amazing.
it's overflow, even when the
Yeah,
water's on top over it, come over it,
yeah,
it
it's,
still breaks
Mhm.
them up.
yeah.
You know, in the studies we've done, they've identified areas of higher risk, which is, yeah, the breakwater is doing its job. It's the rainwater and extreme storms flooding
Coming over
from
the other way.
Situate
Right.
that are gonna
Mm.
cause trouble.
Our
for the
houses,
town. But yeah, it's enough to protect the boats.
Just, one
reasonably.
other question I had, in losing the boatyard and not having the ability for haul out. How does it work for you guys if a boat's in distress? And
Hmm.
I'm sure Lori knows the answer to this too, but what are the options you have?
Oh, well, yeah, I
I
mean,
mean, I know you
you
can
know-
tie up next to the town pier and
yeah, so, yeah,
But
if
it's-
there's an emergency, you know, we could get hauled out, and Lori in the past has been nice enough to let guys go into parking lot for, you know,
Yep.
five or 6 days or whatever it takes to get something patched up.
Mhm.
But yeah, you know, thankfully doesn't happen all the time, but you know, there are people are pretty resilient in ways of fixing things and finding solutions.
Yeah. Terrific.
All right.
Thank you very much for joining us. Again, you're welcome to stay, and we also won't mind if you take your leave. That's up to you, but thank you for being here.
Let's get putting the kids to bed.
So we have a number of sort of quick hitting, items, or at least quick on the agenda hitting items. Next on the agenda is Community Preservation Act funding for Harbor Committee and Harbor Master related initiatives. I want to preface this. We had a discussion on it last week. had a little bit of dialogue via email with Lori today. I think, anyway, I want Mike to speak on this, about basically on process findings you have. Again, it's looking at, from a harbor committee and a harbor master point of view, any projects we want to do that could be funded by Community Preservation Act. Basically, we don't want to miss the boat or have the train leave the station without us being aware of deadlines. So Mike, what did you find in your
The last meeting,
brief
you may
research?
recall, we discussed, discussing the extension of the dock.
Parker Avenue,
off
Dingy
Parker
Pier.
Avenue. And also a little bit about the harbor master's office. And we raised the question about whether any of that was capable of being funded with CPC money. And I had volunteered to find out. So last week I got in touch with Tracy Connor, who is a contact for CPC, and we discussed the process. She told me that there wasn't time last week, there weren't any applications or anything on an agenda that was going to prompt a meeting anytime soon. Since that time, apparently there have been a couple that have come up, and so there is going to be a meeting at the end of the month. But anyway, the process has been simplified, according to her. I have never done it before or been participant in one. You basically just give them some ideas on a piece of paper, and they invite us to come to the to a meeting to discuss it, and it begins the process of potentially getting to a point where CPC will come to town meeting with monies that are being allocated towards project A, B, C, whatever it is. And that's the that's the crux of it all. So we didn't discuss whether or not there was any opportunity for CPC money to be brought before the spring town meeting. But she did encourage us to come this month if they had a meeting, and now they are. So we should take advantage of that as far as I can tell. Try to get on, especially the dinghy dock, if we can get that before the committee and perhaps before a town meeting. That would be a good thing. Get started. But that's the
Is there a
process.
difference in, because I haven't done a CPC in a long time, but is there a difference between a town application and a like a nonprofit application? You know, I just can't remember. I mean, is it considered, more advantageous to be bettering? I know there's three
Yeah.
categories, et cetera, a town municipal asset. I wonder just how much if they're more receptive to funding something like that.
Well, I mean, it has to meet certain criteria, as you allude to, and basically just have to be able to justify it. It seems like there's a wide range
They're very wide.
of not only project types, but what wide range of their funding numbers. I mean, it could be 50-50, it could be 75-20, whatever. I mean, it seems pretty open. So, I mean, we discussed the dinghy dock, we discussed the transient showers and what have you for the harbor master's office as being potential what ifs. She said, well, you never know, just bring it before us and discuss it.
And did you get any sense of whether it's a good idea to combine things or?
No, I don't, I
Smaller chunks.
didn't pursue combining, but I would think those are different projects, they're different timings. I wouldn't suggest we do that.
I have a response to that based on a conversation today, but before we go there, Lori, I know that you've had some perspective on this. Anything you want to share regarding CPC funding?
I've done applications before, and gotten money before. And they're very receptive to working with the town and helping on, projects if it, falls into recreation, which is
Right.
the only thing the harbor qualifies for.
Yeah.
Which is basically docks. But But yeah, no, it's been good.
So I'll share that David Farag called me today, very, very helpful on a number of things. His primary reason for calling was about the harbor master's office, which we'll talk about in a minute. But he is the select board rep to the Community Preservation Committee. And his recommendation was similar to what you said, with the exception, he said, if you have a bunch of ideas, bring those ideas to us. And then we're happy to discuss how you might structure them or whether to go forward with one and pull back on the other. You know, the two that we've discussed last year and now, you know, based on my understanding and experience with CPC, the dinghy dock, sort of regardless of its budget, qualifies for 100% funding from Community Preservation Act. If they require skin in the game, it typically would be, you know, you'd say, here's Lori's salary and her people's salary, here's how much they're spending, and that becomes the skin in the game. But that's how I think a lot of them work. And the dinghy dock is a pure play on recreation from what I can see. I would say, you know, if we look at the Harbor Masters building, this was a discussion with David today. There's mixed things, and I'll share. Lori shared a note from Ellen Marr saying that went out to all committee heads, saying there's a ton on the plate for town right now. We know that there's a fire safety building, there's fixing the town
Rec
hall.
appropriation as opposed to CPC.
Well, yeah, she was just saying, hold up on suggesting new projects. And I think to Lori's point, Harbor Master building, yeah, it's a new project potentially. What's interesting about it is that, you know, yes, it's a town infrastructure. It also plays a recreational purpose, you could argue, in addition to showers, right? It's however much your proportion of work for managing moorings deals with recreational moorings, you could make the case that there could be some funding for that. There's been discussion, and I don't know how much is rumor or real, about possible funding from Tom Sullivan. So, you know, the Eastwick Hotel gets a nice looking building across the harbor from him. I don't know how much of that's real.
Yeah.
Dave,
Historic, it should be historic looking and then it will fit into.
well, I mean,
CPC.
if he wants to give money to it, you know, it's worth asking. But then, you know, so there's capital funding, there's potential recreation funding, there's potential private funding. All this stuff would take a while. All this stuff's sort of a dream. It's a concept right now. But I was encouraged to hear from David that apparently there was discussion at Select Board. I went back and looked at minutes for the past 3 months, and I didn't see any mention of it in minutes or in agendas. I don't know if you're aware of that, Lori. You said they talked about it.
The last selectmen's meeting they did.
It was just that recent. Okay. And this is, you know, so being sort of respectful that the select board needs to keep Michelle Leary and others focused on real critical issues. I look at Harbor Master building as something it would behoove us to start the discussion this year and get things
How we can be sort of.
get things moving. And also what he encouraged, and we also heard this from you, Adam. He said, in order for this to happen, it would be really helpful to hear from CMI, from Sailing Club, from CSCR, from the Yacht Club, everybody about, hey, we need a modern building up there. Lori's doing a great job, you know, but we want to make sure that the Harbor Master is equipped with
Has what she needs.
with a modern building. And so that was part of his encouragement that we can do, again, just to tell him, Lori, I'd like to see the Harbor Master building when the town comes up for air be at the top of the list.
And then same question. Does it make sense to glom that with public safety building or with any of the other things so that if they're doing a site assessment, they can do a site assessment for whatever other building and this at the same time? Is there a cost savings or is that not advised?
I would say, I think we dodged a bullet by not being involved with the public safety building? Because
Yeah, right now, yeah.
Suggested to me a year and a half ago, and I said, no.
Yeah.
I did not want to be part of the public safety.
Right.
building.
yeah, for funding.
Right.
And that is that's its own big contentious issue.
Right, right.
This is, I look at if we could come up with be creative with funding such that the town says, wow,
Wow, look at what you did, right?
look at what these people are doing. Oh, and I forgot to mention, I mean, you've said, if you could get Votech to
Mhm.
do the framing
Well,
and the
which you've done in
roof
the
or
past.
something,
Right.
people would
Mhm.
love
Mhm.
that there's creative process going into.
Adam to build.
And they did something this year, didn't they, Barry? The Votech?
I think the official.
Well, they
built
built
the last
rebuilt the
one.
wall.
Railing
It
along
was a-
with
it was a place to
Oh,
hang
well,
out.
right.
boatyard in
Mhm.
it.
And they did it, yeah. I mean, that's a testament.
Mhm.
And they managed it, right? I mean, I know Brian Joyce was involved, but they project managed it.
Yeah. They do their own GC work.
And they want to build relationships with the towns, because I know when they did that vote to build the new Votech, they had the new principal over there, really want to make a big deal about, he thinks it's important to do things for the town, because ultimately that's who funds them.
That's where these people are going to.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And I think you mentioned last time, yes, they do some of the work, but you need professional electricians, professional plumbers, the demolition folks, concrete people, right? That's not work Votech would do.
Votech will do the building and the electrical work.
Oh,
They
okay.
do not do the plumbing or HVAC or insulation or taking down the building.
Mhm.
And prepping the site for the new building.
Yeah. It's still huge though. I mean,
I've got it all lined up.
yeah.
Plans.
Yeah.
Yep.
All I have to do is call
Get
the
some capital,
architect and
yeah.
say, draw up the plans.
Yeah.
The blueprints.
Mm.
I've already talked with Votech. I've got a price for the materials.
That's
I've
great.
got the contractor to take down the building and prep the site. I've got the plumber on board. And insulation. Anybody can whack up fiberglass insulation.
Mhm.
Well, maybe we should be giving David Farag the,
I mean, he's got to navigate, the select board has to
Yeah,
navigate.
there's a lot
yeah,
of,
well,
Navigate
said, right.
some issues.
Yeah,
So you'll tell us when you're ready for letters of support or whatever the next thing that we can do
Well-
to support you is.
I mean, I think, we have an opportunity to advocate,
in support.
if we advocate now and we advocate 8 months from now and another 8 months after that, I think the idea is to demonstrate there's a desire, there's a need
And a support
and support in the harbor, well in advance of, we need that support to make sure this bubbles up as something.
takes
that-
time to amass.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Laura, do you have I'm sorry if I've missed this in an earlier conversation, but do you have a budget for this that you already kind of know how much this, yeah? And what is that? Not to put you on the spot, but
It's about 250,000
okay,
at the most,
at the most,
Mm.
if Votech does it.
right?
It's only a building 20 by 26.
Yeah, it's like a bunkhouse, right?
It's gonna be a little bit big. It'll be twice the size of what we have right now.
Mm-hmm.
Does it have what do you call it, a concrete pad that's that big
It will
already?
Be on a pad, yes. We
So-
will not put a foundation in.
Yeah.
It's all ledge there.
But the pad has to be expanded to be that 20 by 20.
Oh, the whole thing has to be moved away from the river and back a little bit.
Okay,
So it will,
it'll change.
Mhm.
presently, it's really not on a pad.
Okay,
It's on cinder blocks.
okay.
So are we gonna try to get something, ideas in front of
I'll wait
the
till the
CPC
next
this month or not?
It's not eligible for CPC. It's not recreation.
Can
and they
you-
don't.
We kind of kicked around whether or not your transient showers would be,
The transient business is probably gonna be smaller in the future.
okay.
And I don't know if we will put a shower in for transients.
Okay.
So I
It's
did,
not be, one of the selectmen is opposed to
Yeah.
showers.
so that was, David mentioned his view, and this is just David. I don't know how broad it goes with the select board, is that his view is that Cohasset will be a more attractive destination
Mhm.
when the hotel goes in, Cohasset Wharf comes online, there's restaurants there, Salt House opens up some more.
You mean for boaters to come in?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that there'll be more reason, for transient boaters to look at this as a destination. Whether it actually happens or not, who knows? But certainly it's not particularly attractive today from a services point of view. There's nothing here, nothing here. But there will be,
Yeah.
2 years from now, there will be.
Mhm.
Um,
Don't you think it's worth a shot though, Laurie, to go to CPC and see if they give some money for it?
or at least just talk to him about it.
I mean, sounds like David was
He
bringing
was,
this up
he was
and
encouraging.
he's on the, yeah. He even brought up the CPC and these other pots of money, didn't he?
I mean, to me, that at least as I see it, if where I think we have the best opportunity, if I was on CPC, is get started on the dinghy pier.
Yeah, for sure.
But I think it's worth talking with them, and they may have other creative ideas on, and they may also have a point of view on, don't discount the idea that the Harbor Masters building may qualify for recreational. I mean, what I believe I know is that there's no $250,000 lying around anywhere. Nobody in town can give that money, whereas CPC, they can.
Right.
They have that money and they
Right.
regularly dispense in
And-
dollar amounts like that.
To talk to them, you also can learn what other people do they know who are gonna be coming and asking for that money too, so you can kind of assess your competition as far as other
Yeah.
requests.
Yeah.
Because that'll make a big difference too. How many other, projects are
Yeah.
come forward, so.
So David is the one who mentioned that he's just heard. I don't, it's not been posted, but that there'll be a CPC meeting. He said at the end of the month on Monday, so that's about a week and a half from now. And Lori, I know you want to take lead on this. Can we get an application in front of for the dinghy pier at the very least, or have a general discussion in place that they could have that discussion?
I have to, there's still preliminary work that has to be done before we can start talking to CPC about it, because we may not even be able to do it because of the location of the federal dredge line. We're very close.
Yeah. I think
Question about the pier, and I know you cover all the bases and you think everything through. By adding the dinghy, this is to the Park Ave one, right?
Correct, extending it, yeah, about 100 feet.
What are your thoughts about parking availability?
Well,
given that?
that's an issue. We add all these extra dinghies.
Yeah,
Where do
right,
they park?
exactly.
Right.
There's no, nobody's talking about expanding parking in this town.
Right,
Right.
Yeah.
And
because,
that's the real issue.
yeah.
Is that parking lot full very often?
All summer.
It's, yeah, I,
Absolutely.
Well,
know that we live,
Yeah,
we
we
live
live there and.
on the weekends, right?
I'm
Yeah,
gonna say,
weekdays isn't
I
too
have
bad.
not been able to find a parking space at CSR like twice all
Yeah.
year. That's it.
Yeah.
So on the weekdays, it's not full.
But that's when
nobody's
you're-
out on their boat.
but if you're talking, if you're talking about another 40, 50 dinghy spots,
Right.
that's an influx.
Lori, I think, where I feel with CPC, you can have a discussion with them. You can always withdraw.
Mhm.
But if we don't get in on this funding round, we're probably looking at 16 months from now. At least for the discussion. I mean, that's the risk or the concern that I have if we don't at least have a discussion with them. I mean, you have a number of things you don't know. You may not know what the cost of the engineering estimate would be. Maybe you do, maybe you don't. But I think those things all can happen in parallel or even following an initial discussion. Because the key thing is they're going to bring projects proposed for funding in May, and those projects are going to be discussed soon. Probably well before you get a finding from the Army Corps.
Do you need to get approval from the town manager to put in an application? I mean, is there any
No.
protocol? Okay, so you can independently be the applicant. Okay, because I was just concerned that that may be a stumbling block, but if you can do it independently, that's great.
No, I can do it. As a department.
Yeah, as a department head, right?
we're allowed to, yeah.
Yep.
Well, I think that's the opportunity. Yeah, would love to see some momentum on that, but Lori will let you mull on it. Next topic we have is, Julie, I don't think you've said a word today.
She's pretty happy.
I don't know if I have that much
You
extra
don't-
to share on.
Brian was talking all about you.
And then she-
So Cohasset, when raid meets tide, next steps. This is more asking about process, but anything you have to share about next steps on this, we'd love to hear.
Yeah, so there have been 2 meetings with the Eco One Stop. It consisted of the CZM reps and a couple reps in the beginning from MVP. That was back in December. Cassandra and Brian were in attendance for that. They let town staff know that we were missing a deliverable from a past CZM round, which Brian mentioned, which was the modeling data and a memorandum that went along with that. So we reached out to Woods Hole Group and Weston and Sampson to get a touch on what we are looking for, what documents they needed to provide to us so that we can get that ball rolling, because this was just the EOI for the one stop. So this is the expression of interest. And I'm only going to speak to the When Rain Meets Tide application.
Yep.
And Brian has 2 other applications that he put in. And he knows specifically regarding those applications. So we met again with CZM directly, 2 reps from CZM, as well as Woods Hole Group. Connor was on that, as well as I think his name was Kirk, and he works for Woods Hole Group as well. Robin Seidel from Weston and Sampson was on that because she is an expediter for our application process for this Eco One Stop. And so it was really talked out clearly what was missing, and Woods Hole Group is aware of what they are researching in the files for the previous projects. And so they will provide that to CZM as soon as possible. And as Brian mentioned, the application period is going to open later this month for formal applications for the Eco One Stop. And the applications are due mid to late March. So we have a little bit of a window with getting that in, but we're going to hopefully receive that material from Woods Hole Group sooner rather than later. And then they were not, I know there was a question regarding skepticism regarding funding with the state or federal level. They didn't really shed too much concern on that, which was a relief. And they, it was Jason, he was the,
Bertner.
yeah,
Mhm.
thank you. Jason with CZM mentioned that one major suggestion they had for our expression of interest, and that would lead to our application, is that we just need to strengthen the language because they could not clearly understand the work that had been done prior.
Mm,
And they were almost confused as if they were funding the same project. So they just want us to clearly spell out in the language exactly what has been done
mhm.
and exactly what we are planning to do with this application.
That's really helpful.
Robin was on that call, myself, Cassandra, so we will work together and with input from anyone on the committee who would like to share. We'll update that language and get that submitted in the application window period.
So that's basically the grant proposal that we approved. You, everybody worked on, approved, submitted last summer. Based on Jason's input, it needs to be rewritten, tightened up, strengthened,
Right.
more straightforward.
Yes.
I know we had some questions in this meeting last
Mhm.
month about what's the scope, where is it covered? You know, there's Gulf River versus Highlands, et cetera. We'll have the chance to look at that. So, but I think Robin of Weston and Sampson was the primary author. Was that true last year?
Yes. For the CZM grant
Yes.
that we heard about in the fall.
Yeah. Yes.
Yes. It was Weston and Sampson who
Do you
conducted.
get to view successful applications? I mean, I've found in the past when I've done some grant writing, is there any way of looking at, what towns were successful in securing these and seeing the way they write things? Of course, you're hiring an expert. I appreciate that, from the
You
engineering
think it's
firms.
public
But
information.
yeah, but you wonder,
Just
having,
a list of past
You know, how-
projects.
They announced who won. I mean,
Right. see, I just
they
think it'd be interesting
identified,
to see, what was.
I mean, a Cohasset project won,
Correct.
Yep,
right? It's,
right.
so,
Yeah.
you know,
We could always-
and was that Jack Buckley writing that? I thought it was, but so we have the input we were looking for out of this initial consultation, which is tighten it up, be more straightforward, be clear.
And explain what's already been done.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
So
Exactly.
is
And-
this the MVP or is this a different one?
This is so it sounds like it'll likely fall under CZM again.
And then under
Because-
Coastal Resilience Program or?
What's the other one?
That was the submission.
Coastal Water Quality, Communications, CZM regions, federal.
I believe it's the coastal resilience. And then there's another one that actually conservation was approved for. And that was I'm forgetting the name of, there's two groups.
There's Coastal Water Quality and Coastal Resilience
Yeah.
that I was looking at before. But I think it seems like you're in the Coastal Resilience.
Yeah.
It's sure, that's where we
So-
want it to be.
And in ECO will help you get it into the right place, but it looks like it's a Coastal Resilience Program.
Yeah, so the
Managed through Storm Smart Coasts.
Well, let me ask, who is, based on this, are we tasking Weston and Sampson with tightening it up?
Yeah, I was
Or is Cassandra or you, or who's the
Mhm.
drafting party to
it will
address this?
likely be a collaboration, probably starting with Weston and Sampson.
Mhm.
So I would ideally say they will probably create a new draft of the language, and then we will look it over, have a meeting, and make sure it's clear and understandable by the reader. That was what they were looking for.
And this work starts now, right? I mean, we have,
Yeah.
I mean, I guess
Yeah,
Woods
we-
Hole Group has to supply their deliverable.
Yeah, so we're waiting.
That needs to
for-
happen too, but assuming
Yes.
that happens, this thing goes forward.
Yes, so I just got an email from Robin today following that meeting yesterday, and we're gonna set a meeting.
Okay.
Yeah.
I guess I would say that, we are interested in, I mean, we'll read the document. I think a lot of our questions in December or November were based on fuzzy memories of what we submitted.
Right.
We need to go back and reread that and see exactly what it is we're asking for from that. But we are interested in being involved.
Yeah.
And that's going to happen between now and the next Harbor Committee meeting. So to the degree we, I want
Yes.
our committee involved. You go through me, I will involve others. Well, we're not trying to slow it down. We just want to make sure that I think you were involved the last time in some of the drafting, Jeff. I think you
Little
were.
bit, yeah.
Yeah.
Another set of eyes is always better.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we are definitely welcoming for that.
Okay.
The good news is we're not changing substance, just language. So,
Mhm. Okay.
but yes, we will, should I use, yourself as the point
Yeah.
of contact?
Use me as point and I will involve the committee if we need to. And we did this before. We held a special
Set
meeting.
around.
We held a special meeting of this group when we got to a certain stage
Mhm.
to do that review. So, our scheduled meeting is second Wednesday of March. We'll meet before then if we need to.
Okay.
And we probably will want to.
Before that.
So if there's supposed to be a public outreach part of this, I'm on the ICO website. Then I would love to put a role in for CSER to do part of that for you.
So that was just the expression of interest. So there's no public outreach that is to be done between now and a formal application.
No, I mean, if you want to add in a public outreach component to the proposal so that it hits some more check marks on
The only
the
thing that
one-stop reviewers.
I think is concerning is the fiscal data that they have compiled for the project itself. We'd have to go in and look at the project to allocate like funding for more meetings and staff time. I don't know if we were intending on adjusting the schedule, just the language for the application itself.
Yeah, probably best not to mess with something that they.
I was
say
gonna
Well,
basically-
no, but I will offer, I mean, the Harbor Committee is, it's been acknowledged, we're party to this.
Yeah.
Your question about involvement, all our opinions, we'll decide as a Harbor Committee. We're one party to this.
Right.
And so we need to act as a single party. If it
One
makes
voice.
sense to involve CSCR, others,
Mhm.
we have to agree on that as a committee
Mhm.
and we'll propose that to the other drafting parties.
Comments we have when we get the
Yeah.
revision. Okay.
I mean, I'm not saying no to it. I say, let's look at the opportunities.
Mhm.
I mean, because to date in our last one, the public outreach was us. We're the ones who held, the public forums. We're the ones who promoted that and, with all the work we did.
Yeah, I
So
feel like
to-
you could always do like a collaborative outreach meeting. Like maybe it's just one meeting on the books,
Yeah.
but maybe you partner with CSCR.
Yeah.
So it's not really creating an extra line item.
Right. Where you've already had almost an approved schedule.
Yeah.
If they're only asking for A, B, and C, I'd be concerned about rocking the boat too much, being what they've asked us to tighten up the language and.
Right, but
Yeah.
if they give you points for doing community outreach and public outreach, or if they give you points for disadvantaged communities or that kind of thing, then it's not always easy to come up with those parts. And sometimes that's where, or like we could do some of that kind of stuff.
Yeah, maybe we can be creative behind the scenes.
Yeah,
While it's like,
Pending.
Yeah, so feel free to give me a thing to look at and I'll read through it. And-
We'll do this as a group. So
No, I mean, well, this is more a CACR thing that I'm offering.
I-
Because I don't expect the Harbor Committee to take on public outreach unless you do it what you did last time, which is a different thing. So public outreach, the way CSCR does it, is what CSCR does. And we reach out specifically to youth and we reach out to our community of practice. Like we have that, we do that all the
Yeah,
time. So
okay.
if there's a role for an organization that you have that's based on the harbor that focuses all of its work on coastal resilience, and you need to make it look like you're doing more public outreach, then we are your people to do that.
Okay. I'm cognizant of the time. We're running over. We have a few things we need to cover.
Don't me make a quick
Yeah.
comment on, so. I think-
Talk about, so we're talking about Cohasset
Yeah,
Harbor,
There's you all recalled, maybe 5-6 months ago, I put together a draft of a story map that included information, basically some information about, the point of it was sort of promoting recreation sites around the harbor and access to recreation in the harbor and education. And so that there's text that was, created for that story map. Thank you, Julia. You've taken that text and you put that up on the town's website. So the information is there about the
Community.
half a dozen or 7 or 8 sort of, these are kayak docks, the sailing club, yacht club, right? So there's a little bit of information about each of the recreation sites or organizations that provide access to recreation in the harbor. There's some images, pictures that you put on the bottom that you can scroll through and look at those. So the next step is just to try to, again, figure out how to best recreate the story map so that it could be included and the map is just used as a reference point. So when you jump to a particular location, it shows you where that is in a map, and that's the idea of the story map. So we chatted. I'm meeting with the IT manager for the town to look at what is the access to the new sort of newly set up town GIS around ArcGIS, and how we might leverage the town's GIS, and whether that's through a town employee that helps do that, or so it's sort of, that's the next step. Figure out how to best find the location for supporting that particular story map. And that next step.
So that would be a first step. It would be great to have that. You also had, I'm looking at Adam beside you, you had some ideas about other topical areas. If this is jumping the gun a little bit, but
well, it's a
story map on the fishing
great
industry.
to promote, wherever we can, to promote what goes on in our harbor and our town, and the recreational sites were one idea to provide that information. Just the other thought I was kicking around was just with George was just it would really be cool, I think, to have maybe an idea. Here's just a framework of an idea. Maybe CSCR would be involved in this, is to get some students who interview or to talk to some lobstermen about the lobster fishery
Day in the life.
in town, and that maybe there's a couple a group of students, or it could be NHS student programs that would sort of interview and then provide maybe some sort of some information that's provided in some form, some type of form, whether it's one of the online blogs or the as an anchor or something like that. It's just, I think it's just, I mean, the fishing industry in Cohasset is such a, it's an important sort of thread from our history, and it's part of what the town was built around.
Totally agree. Totally
So
agree.
I think, the more townspeople sort of appreciate and understand it, I think it's just another part of the harbor that should be.
Well, and a story map could really tell the story.
Well, I don't know how much a story map would be. I mean, there's always ways.
I
to make
could
maps.
see it.
Wait a
but-
second, this is already being done by Jason Conforti in some ways.
I've talked to him. Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm just looking, because I knew he was doing this, I didn't have time to help him out, but he's got a GoFundMe page and it says that he made his goal and it's called The Last Lobsterman.
Yeah, hi, isn't it a mic?
Oh, I don't know.
Yeah.
I talked to him a couple of years ago.
Yeah,
I don't
yeah,
know,
he-
on and off.
He's trying to make a film on it.
yeah.
Yeah.
I told him I'm more of a
Well, I mean,
not camera ready.
obviously we've seen a
The
look
mic's like, take
what
it.
might be existing out there already, but I just think it would be good to maybe add to, wherever the right place or
I
location
think it's a great
is,
idea.
more of a stories around the
Yeah.
fishing industry, how it's changed over the
To
years.
document them and to save them, a lot of the history is verbal too, and to
Right.
be able to collect all that is very important.
Well,
and
just how
pass it
things have
down.
changed and
Yeah.
evolved over the years. You're
Mhm.
talking about a whole
That'd be
new
wonderful.
thing that you're
Absolutely.
dealing with. So,
Absolutely.
anyway, yeah.
So bringing it back to the actual next step, get appropriate licensing for this software platform in the town so that we could sponsor a story map on the town website would be
Yeah, I'd have to
sort
think
of
about
a
how
next step.
the map gets involved in this particular thing, but
But the one about even the recreation.
that's
Yeah.
yeah.
That's, and so you're taking point on that, working with the town IT.
Yeah, I had other reasons to talk to the GIS people in the town, but yeah. CCP and all, but yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
That's great.
Last topic for tonight, other than any new businesses, if you pull out your agenda and look at the back page. So these are our 2025 priorities. And what I have envisioning is a year ago, November, I had the opportunity and I think a few people participated. We met with the select board and shared what we're up to. And I think we have an opportunity. We'll make the opportunity again. It really helps to have, here's what we're working on to do that. So the priorities from last year, this is what we agreed on. What I'm thinking for this is I really want our priorities to focus on things we're really going to do or we're really doing. Not so much that we're going to get it done in 2026. I mean, we're not going to solve climate resilience and Captain's Walk in a year, but it is representing, stuff we're doing. So my thinking, and again, this is going quick, is that harbor climate resilience still stays right where it is as a major focus. Captain's Walk is a big catch-all, but if you see the public dinghy docks and piers that's midway down there, that's something we're actively working on and is a big focus among other things. The Government Island Pier, that's mostly the, Lori Gibbons show, but that's something that we're very focused on and want to maintain as a very visible priority to the select board. The one I would propose we add, again, is something we focus on, is the Harbor Master Office, so that we demonstrate that we have visibility to that, and then we can call on our membership to raise that. I would propose we drop off the list I'm going to skip over D for a moment, but participate in MVPTO. It's done, at least for me. So I propose we drop that off. I propose we drop off the bylaws initiative because we didn't work on it last year, and we can always put stuff back on, but if we're not absolutely committed to doing it, then I'd say not.
Can I speak to that for a second?
Yeah.
I was involved in that, in approaching and speaking with selectmen, at the time. The caution was, let's, with all the things that were going on with the other bylaws in town, was to, just let's wait. And
Okay.
that was a piece of that. And I know you and I have talked about this, George, recently. This is something that I would like to work on, but I don't think we can put it on as priorities right now. And I'd like to shoot for beginning to looking at it, probably in the spring.
Okay.
Because I think there's a couple of state laws that have just changed, that may have an impact on it. And I don't think, we did work on a shellfish bylaw
Right.
at one point. Spent a lot of time on it with the governor's subcommittee. And then we brought it to the board, the select board, and said, we already have one. So there was a total disjunct between it. So this is something that, I don't want to, dismiss, but I don't think we should list it as a priority right now.
I appreciate that.
Yep.
Thank you. Thank you for that. The last one about G, I propose that rather than sort of that general catch-all, which we haven't really done, putting the Harbor Master Office on there is a very specific project that, yes, would involve funding. To me, my thinking is keep it simple, be very clear, like, Jason Burtner told us on the CZM grant, have very specific things we're working on that we can point to as things that this committee is going to focus on for next year. And it obviously does not exclude anything. It just says,
But this is what we're telling selectmen we're going to accomplish in this coming year.
yeah. And
Right.
actually,
The Harbor Master Building does seem to be a pretty significant thing to contribute to, the legacy of this committee.
yeah. And it's going to take yeah, it's gonna be a multi-year thing,
Yeah,
because it's the funding of it is not known.
updated.
Yeah.
You want a motion?
Yeah,
So there are not necessarily in order of priority. We're just agreeing that they all should be kept on the list.
that's why the A, B, C, D. Identify them, but they're not 1, 2, 3, 4, because they,
Equal among.
the one I sort of question, we as a committee didn't do anything on dredging last year. I mean, this is somewhat a legacy thing. I'm somewhat taking Lori's lead.
Is it necessary for us
If
to?
we need to build support for dredging to get funding for it or something, we could do that, but it's not something we're active with as a committee.
But it does affect the harbor.
Oh,
Of
course,
everything
a lot of
does.
things does.
Moving CMI to Wolfie's house.
No, I'm,
This is supposed to be priorities of our work this
Right.
coming year.
Shouldn't that still be an ongoing priority for us every year? Because keeping tabs on it, whether we're doing something active with it, it's like keeping an eye on it and
Well, is there a difference though between priorities that are deliverables as opposed to priorities that are just gonna be
I'd say that
involved in?
I would call these areas of focus. I mean,
Yeah.
because almost none of them are, we can't guarantee the timing any more than
Right.
select board can. Then let's leave dredging on. So I propose,
conduit for information and recommendations to the select board on things going on in the harbor and that are related to the harbor.
Yeah.
Boating, community, fishing industry. You know,
And-
so
and-
it seems hard for me to see dredging not
Yeah.
stay up there somewhere.
well, and Lori mentioned, I think in our last meeting that, there's ambiguity in the agreement or the agreement between Situate and Cohasset is silent in terms of who's leading on dredging, but
Right.
that's
Really?
So thank you I propose motion that we have new priorities. I could show it on here. A stays, B stays, C stays, D stays, and we add Harbor Master office building as the 5th of our priority focus. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Further discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? Thank you. Is there any new business to bring before tonight's meeting?
We have dates for the next one is.
Well, a little bit of progress. It's the sailing. The big stuff. We are going to be adding a new sailboat
Nice.
to our fleet as a trial boat, Sandpiper.
Yep.
You guys know it.
That's an old
So
theory,
it's,
isn't it?
So we're trying to add a little more sailing element back in. Sailing club. Add to our fleet. We are a sailing club.
That's great. Yeah,
So
exactly.
we have about
Club that's
2/3 of the
Gone to the dark side.
2/3 of the funds that to secure a boat. and get that
That's
started.
awesome.
That's great.
And then
Congrats.
hopefully it'll be successful and we'll add a couple more down the road.
That's great.
Yeah.
Susan, to your question, and it's worth reiterating, the scheduled harbor committee meetings are at the bottom of the agenda. We discussed it and agreed on it at our last meeting. I would ask,
Whoa, there they are in small.
I would ask
Sorry, just missed
if
that.
you don't have them blocked out on your calendar for 7 o'clock to 8:30 on those days, please block them out on your calendar. We've had, I think the participation by committee members here has been just
Spectacular.
almost astounding at our meetings. So I appreciate people making this a priority. I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second,
Second.
all in favor of adjourning?
Aye.
All right, meeting is over at 9:05.
Bye, Jake.
Thank you, Jake.
See you guys. Thank you very much.
Trooper, man.
What was that, George? I'm sorry.
You're a trooper. Thank you.
Yeah, I felt my eyes starting to burn out a little bit there at the end, so this was just at the right time. Thank you.
Yeah, that's not a clue.
I really appreciate your participation as note taker. That's who sets the agenda, is who takes the notes.
Right. Control
So
document.
George, if you just give me till the end of the weekend to kind of just tighten these up a little bit, I can send them across to you if that's acceptable.
That is extremely acceptable.
Okay. All right, great.
My objective would be to, as soon as we have reasonable minutes, we'll send them out to the team.
Yeah, because I mean, I'm just doing like Spitfire. There's misspellings, so I just got to tighten it up and format it, and then I'll get it right over to you.
Absolutely.
That's great.
But I will say the audio is really good. I could hear you guys really clear and stuff. So
good.
no issues on my end. Yeah.
That's great. This room is the best Zoom room I've ever been in.
Really? Yeah.
I haven't been in a better room than this.
We built out in 26 offices of my institution millions of dollars for all this sort of stuff, and there's always problems, constant problems, and it's ridiculous. And this is 2 years ago. It's not like pre-COVID or anything else. It's just madness.
There is reliable functionality and simplicity, right?
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. Roll down windows.
That's right.
Dave, thanks a lot, and we'll look forward to talking.
No problem. We'll catch up. See you guys. Thank you again.
All right, take care.
Peace.